you did! Look what you did to her!
Growing outrage over Canadian police trampling protesters from the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa. Video circulating online showing an elderly woman being run over. It comes as police arrested around 100 protesters, some reportedly at gunpoint. 4 senior protest leaders are among those that have been arrested, mainly on mischief charges, and 24 vehicles blocking key roads have been towed out of an estimated 350 vehicles that belong to those protesters. Here with me to break this all down is independent scholar Bilal Sarwary, who has been following the Freedom Convoy protests there in Canada. Bilal, I want to just start by laying this out for our viewers here, that you and I have a history over the last few years on you know, our previous working together to cover the war in Afghanistan, because you were a journalist based in Afghanistan covering the war, covering the conflict with the Taliban, but this time you're covering the Freedom Convoy protests. I'm just curious to get your perspective of 2 entirely different worlds and what you make of this story.
Well, what this started initially was about the vaccination mandate. We have to remember 90% of the truck drivers were vaccinated, but then it turned into something totally different. And even though the Canadian Prime Minister, was playing down this group of protesters, they really proved that they had a lot of influence. They created a lot of noise. And as this convoy of truckers and people went to Ottawa, other people also joined them. And then it got even more complicated when they basically gathered in bigger numbers right in the heart of the Canadian capital. So since then, what we have seen has been a very difficult and extremely challenging job for the police officers. In cold Canadian winter, everyday life was impacted, and it has basically resulted into measures by the police, including warnings from Canadian officials that bank accounts will be frozen if your truck has been in this, then that means that you will lose your insurance. And some people have criticized those measures as extreme, saying you're doing this to Canadians, it's not really fair.
The measures and the authority that Justin Trudeau has taken here is just absolutely unprecedented. Yes, these protests started over vaccine mandates, but are we getting into a territory where this government is looking more authoritarian by the day?
Well, the Canadian government has insisted that what they're trying to do is to keep Canadians safe. They have said that they want to make sure that they protect the democracy and they protect the economy. We have to remember that since these trucker convoys have come in...
I mean, would you not argue, though, based on your experience and seeing how Middle Eastern dictators run their countries, that this is now infringing on individual freedoms?
Well, I have been very new to this country. Every Canadian that I speak to, has been surprised both by the demonstration, what it has started as and what it is going towards, as well as Canadians, including members of parliament, castigating the government for that. But it is, I think, unprecedented. No one really expected this. And as we saw this situation continue day by day, there was also a lot of disinformation basically spreading. And you had some of these demonstrators, for example, bringing swastika flags and Confederate flags, and there was the desecration of, war memorials. So one has to really look at it at a very complex development over time. It started as one thing and then it developed as another. But one thing is very, very clear, that these truckers, the convoy and those who are protesting, they proved that they have influence and they created a lot of noise.
Yeah. Well, I think when you mention, the swastikas and those types of symbols at those protests, I mean, I think that the government has been eager to use those as symbols to sort of demonize these protests when what you have is a lot of people just demonstrating for these individual freedoms. Bilal Sarwary, we really appreciate you being with us. We have to leave it there.